Hello, all of you Express Entry Law Facebook group members. My name is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. I am here today, once again, to do another EE Live Q&A. In other words, Express Entry Law is the topic, and this is a live Facebook Q&A that I'm hosting on my private Facebook group entitled Express Entry Law. If you would like to become a member, just search it up, send me your request, and I'll add you. I know that many of you are tuning in from my YouTube channel, and so I welcome you joining us. But if you actually want to attend the live Facebook broadcast that I'm doing right now, the way you do it is to request through Facebook to become a member of our private Express Entry Law Facebook group. All right. So I will wait a few minutes here while we wait for people to connect here. While I'm doing that, I wanted to share with you guys something that happened on the weekend. Now, those of you who are members of the Express Entry Law Facebook group will know that I posted a live video from Waterton because I spent Thanksgiving Day, Canadian Thanksgiving Day, in Waterton. And on our way back, something terrible happened. And it happens to people in Canada, and I'm sure it happens similar things to you in your country. But I'm going to post the picture. Check this out. There you go. That is my nice Ford F-150 truck. And you can see the front of it. It is all smashed in. And you're probably wondering, wow, what caused that? Well, let me show you another picture here. And I'm going to see if I can overlay it. Here's the guilty party. So this guy right here, this buck. Now mine was a mule deer and this is a white-tailed deer, but the effect is the same. I was driving with my family going about 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, and with no warning, everyone, this guy jumped right out in front of my truck, and needless to say, he didn't survive. But in the process of him going across and smucking the front of my truck, it caused a tremendous amount of damage, and what you can't see in this picture is it caused all of the airbags to deploy. And so one of the negative side effects is that I'm now wondering if my truck is even fixable, and obviously I've got insurance on it. But my youngest son, Connor, was sitting in the center seat on the front, and when the airbag deployed, it actually released, I don't know if it was just the hot air or steam or whatever reactant causes airbags to explode, or whether there was some chemicals inside. But it actually caused his leg to get really burnt, second and third degree burns. And I never knew that was possible with airbags. But he will survive. We will all survive. We were all fine, aside from Connor. And I've got a little thumb now that's a little bit bruised here. You can see from the airbag that went off from the steering wheel. But my goodness, it was a wonderful day, and it did not end in a positive way. But we're all good, and I'm sure many of you in your countries experience the same thing with animals running across the road, and it could have been a whole lot worse. But I felt sorry for the poor deer. He didn't make it, but fortunately all of us did. So I just thought I'd share that little anecdote before we get started today. All right, let's see where you guys are tuning in from. I see some familiar faces. I see Pamela and Mauricia. Deidre Ann, you're back, and actually, Deidre, I've got some of your questions that you sent in that I'm going to address, so thank you for that. Let's see, we've got Envis, and where are you guys from? So just post here where you're all listening in. I'm always curious to see where people are tuning in from all over the world. It is 4:37 p.m. right now in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. That is where my law firm is, and this is, you can see back there is the rest of the firm, and I am in a nice little corner office here, and fortunately the snow has decided to stop, which is a good thing, but it is winter. It is here officially. So that's just a part of it. Okay, let's see where we've got here. Mauricia, St. Vincent in the Caribbean. Awesome. Deidre's Calgary. Welcome, Deidre. We've got the Bahamas, Cassandra. Abdul is Dubai. Ahmed is Egypt. This is awesome. I love this stuff. Fantastic. And Mauricia said it's 7:30 p.m. there. Okay, that's not too bad. Envis is in Albania. This is great. Oh, 6:30, Mauricia. She says it's 6:30 actually. That's great. Navjeet, Winnipeg, someone in Canada. Very cool. So we've got people from all over. And I love going back and watching these videos and seeing all of the people who are watching them as a recording and not realizing they're a recording and are posting there on the in the comment section where they're all from. So I love that. So do, in the comments, even if you're watching this as a recording, go ahead and post your comments because I love to see where everyone is tuning in from. Darius, Dr. Air, Sam, Algeria. We've got Edmonton. Excellent, Edmonton. And Pamela's in Houston. Very cool. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. So let's dive right into this. Okay, the first question actually comes from Oquaniano. Oquaniono. Wow, some of these names are tricky to pronounce. Okay, so we're going to go with Pamela. So Pamela, I see you. You're in Houston, and I just totally butchered your name, but I've got your question here. So Pamela from Houston, who's joining us live, had this question that she sent to me. And I'm sure she's laughing at the pronunciation of her last name. I'm so sorry, Pamela. All right, she says, "Hi, Mark. I would like to know the cost of the step-by-step guide to doing it yourself." And so as many of you know, the reason that I'm able to do these and that the law firm that I work for is okay with me doing this is because of this guide that I created, this express entry, complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. All right, so this guide right here, I'm going to share you my screen and I'm going to pull up the actual page for the guide. And this is it. So this is where you go to log in. And if you want to check out and enroll in the course, it takes you right down and you have choices. So some people know that they're going to be in for a while. They know that they may not get drawn right away for an invitation to apply. And so in order to have access for a lifetime, and this is forever, folks, $497 Canadian, or actually these are US dollars, sorry. That will give you a lifetime access. You can go on as often as you want. You can use it whenever you want and for as long as you want. So that's a one-time purchase, lifetime access. You can choose to pay that by payment plan, so you don't have to pay it all up front. And that works out to about $87 US a month if you choose to do the payment plan. Or because some people just can jump in or jump out, you know, they only need to be in for a little while, the monthly subscription is $97 a month. So just a little bit more. So that's the cost. And remember, 100% 30-day money-back guarantee. So if for whatever reason you look at it and you say, man, this is not what I expected, I don't think it's worth any of the money that Mark's trying to charge for it, then fine. You have a full 30 days to get your money back. But aside from that, these are the costs. So Pamela, there you have it. All right. I am now going to flip back to the screen here. All right. Pamela's laughing here. Yes, you did butcher my name. All right. Okay. So I want to go to the next question. And you know what, folks? I'm actually going to go right back to my screen again. I want to show you, and I'm going to close this one out because we don't need that one. I'm going to enlarge this one. And then I'm going to go right to our Express Entry Law Facebook page, because this is where the genesis of this first topic is going to come from. Ahmed here has identified something that many people have been noticing. And you'll see here there were approximately 64 comments on this post about 6 hours ago. And just to summarize, Ahmed is expressing concern about the, right down here you can see in the bottom, the IELTS exam, and this is a post from Mob, but the reality is people are starting to question if there's something going on. And people are consistently getting a 0.5 less than what people need to really maximize their score with Express Entry. So those of you who are tuning in through YouTube or watching this as a recorded video on any of my other Facebook feeds or, through any other means, those of you who are not on our Facebook group will not be privy to the constant comments people are making about basically getting scored just low enough to prevent them from maximizing their scores. So if we open up Ahmed's question here, people know that the magic numbers for really boosting your CRS scores are 8, 7, 7, 7. And so that's on the IELTS exam. But the reality is, if you drop below a 7 on any of these, well, 8 you need, but a 7, for example, listening or reading, if you drop below a 7 to a 6.5, then you lose a lot of points. And so Ahmed is complaining about this, and he's saying, look, I've taken this thing 3 times. Every time I'm always a 0.5 below. And this just seems fishy, right, Ahmed? This just doesn't seem right. And so, like most people, they tagged me in their comment, and I apologize. I cannot answer everybody's question. I'm going to scroll up here, and I'll show you guys that are watching on YouTube. We are over 66,000 members in this group, and people are totally commenting me all the time to answer their specific posts. And it's not possible, folks. I do the best I can, but it's physically impossible. And Facebook keeps messing with this. So I don't even see things in a chronological order. I see things just like you do in accordance with what Facebook thinks you want to see. So the comments that are more popular, the ones that get more traffic tend to be ranked higher. And so your comment, I may not even see it. So sometimes I'll go in here to my messages and there'll be links back, but not all of them even message here because there's so many. So I want to apologize right off the bat. Okay, let's get back to Ahmed here. So he's expressing concern and wondering if there is a conspiracy going on. Is there something fishy? Are they deliberately causing people to fail because they know you'll go back and do it again? Well, what is this all about? This 0.5. What is the issue that we're dealing with here in terms of the score? Why is it so important to get an IELTS score that is at least an 8.777? This is why. I'm going to shift over here. And here you can see the language test equivalency. And if you want to search EE language equivalency, it'll take you to this website. But you can see here, we're dealing with the International English Language Testing System, which most of you who are outside of Canada, that's the exam that you're writing. And this is the only one, really, aside from some countries where the CELPIP, the Canadian one, is offered. I think in the UAE, it may be offered over there. But generally speaking, everyone is stuck with the IELTS. So if there's a conspiracy, there's an issue. But you can see here, the minimum score to get into the gate with IELTS is to score a 6 across all categories. That's the minimum. So you need to maintain, and you can see here, and I'm going to make this bigger for those of you who are watching on your handhelds. So you need to have at least a CLB 7, which is the Canadian language benchmark. But when you write the IELTS test, these are the actual IELTS scores because other countries use this test. But Canada converts it to our Canadian language benchmark. So if you have a 6 across all disciplines, that's the minimum to get through the gate. But I'll tell you, if you do not have a job offer in Canada or have not had any nexus with Canada, in other words, school or Canadian work experience, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to get drawn and receive an ITA with just a 6 score. Okay? So what we're looking at now is getting a CLB 9 across all levels. And this is where you see it. Do you see it here, folks? 7 for reading, 7 for writing, 8 for listening, and a 7 for speaking will give you that magical CLB 9. Now, obviously, if you can get more and you can get an 8 or higher, a 7.5 for writing, then yeah, you're going to score more points. But at this stage, getting a CLB 9 is really important. And you're probably asking why. Well, let me tell you. If we go back to the comprehensive ranking system and look carefully at the way they rank the points, we'll see here that certain number of points are given for official language proficiency. Okay? In fact, if you're single, and we'll just treat you all as single for the purposes of this discussion, 160 points are given for people who have high IELTS scores, essentially. Well, the reality is, with this system, it's not only the straight across the board language points that you're getting. I'm going to scroll down here, and I am going to identify the section for language. And you can see here, CLB 9, if you have it for every ability, you can get up to 31 points for, and you can do the math for each ability that you have as CLB 9. If you have a 10 or more, you can actually max out at the full 136 points. Okay? So, straight up, assessing your language right against the Canadian language benchmark will give you these corresponding points. But even this isn't where the magic happens, folks. The magic happens at the transferability points. So once we get through these human capital factors, your language, your age, your education, and your Canadian work experience, then we get to this section here, skill transferability factors. And there is a maximum of 100 extra points, and these points make the difference for people who are trying to immigrate to Canada, who do not have Canadian work experience or otherwise a connection to Canada. So you people who are trying to qualify through human capital points alone, you are going to maximize your points by scoring through the skill transferability factors. So what are they looking for? Right here. See CLB 7, great. If you can score at least a CLB 7 and you can see here, a post-secondary degree, then you get bonus points. So a CLB 7, but less than a CLB 9, will get you a maximum of 25 extra points if you have 2 or more post-secondary credentials. And one of them is at least 3 years. So 25 points. Well, guess what? If you can move up until you get that 7778, in other words, a CLB 9 right here across all of those disciplines, all of those abilities, then boom, an extra full 50 points. Okay? So you can see here, if you're going through this equivalency and you score a 7 in reading, a 6.5 in writing, you could even score an 8.5 or a 7.5 in listening and speaking. But if that pesky writing, which tends to be the thing that gets people, if you can only score a 6.5, which if you go back here and talk to Ahmed, that tends to be one of the challenges for him, is missing it by 0.5, you can see here. Well, if you're going through this process and you hit only a 6.5 or a CLB 8, the scores are not averaged, folks. If you want to get those extra comprehensive ranking points, it must be on all 4 official language abilities. Okay? So this is where the genesis of this conspiracy theory has started. And so that's why Ahmed here, I'm going to pull him up, that's why Ahmed here is complaining, saying, man, you guys, what's going on here? I've written this thing 3 times, and I just can't reach that CLB 9. And it's a fair statement, right? And many people will echo what he said. But we also have here Sudendu, all right? So I'm posting Sudendu up here, and I'm actually going to jump back to my full screen and go back to our Facebook page. And I'm going to scroll down here because, if I can find it, here it is. This is Sudendu, and I'm going to make this a little larger so you guys can all see really well. So Sudendu said here, finally, after four attempts, 4, so this is one more than our other previous member. After 4 attempts, finally I got CLB 9. So now I believe one should not lose hope, but try harder next time. And then Sudendu, his position is right here. It's a hoax that IELTS authorities make you miss by 0.5 internationally. Okay, so we've got one person who said you just keep on trying, and guaranteed there's a whole whack of other people out there as well that have managed to succeed. And in fairness, every person is going to have a different experience. And, oh, can I move the Institute box? Thanks, Deidre. I tend to do that. I keep forgetting. So you guys probably couldn't even see some of that stuff. Sorry. So the reality is, you have to make sure that when you are when you're writing the exam, that you are fully prepared mentally, and that you're emotionally ready to write this thing, and you're prepared to do it multiple times if you need to. Because without that CLB 9, yes, many of you are not qualifying. One thing I want to point out, though, is that there are only so many people that are going to be able to meet the minimum threshold, and everybody is not going to be able to qualify. And why? Because the government has made it that way. Now, whether the Canadian government has some kind of a deal in the background with IELTS, some conspiracy to keep people's scores down, I would have to say that I seriously doubt that. And for you immigration officers that are watching this, yes, I don't think you're deliberately colluding with IELTS to keep people's scores down. I don't personally believe that. I don't think that works that way, and it would be a terrible embarrassment for the Canadian government if that was the case. But the reality is, some people are going to struggle, and it is really hard to increase your language once you get up to a certain level. So I feel for all of you guys who are struggling with this, but I don't think that there's a conspiracy there. So just keep trying, keep fighting, do all you can. But only a certain number can get through, and that's why that pass mark is set where it is. That's why it's a CLB 9 to get those bonus points. So my apologies for all of you guys who are really struggling. I really wish you all the best, but that's the reality. Okay? So there's a whole bunch of information I gave you related to this alleged conspiracy we're seeing that we see quite frequently on the Express Entry Law Facebook group page. All right. Oh, and actually I'm going to point out too, I'm considering strongly writing the IELTS test myself. And so I'm probably going to have to travel up to Calgary to write it up there. But I'm going to do it so that I can see exactly what you guys are experiencing. And yeah, and I know that it's not easy, guys. Okay, next question. Okay, let's see here. Which one is the best? Okay, I'll do this one this is from Deepak. And Deepak sent me this email, and guess how he sent it, folks? He sent an email to mholthy@stringham.ca, and he put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. All right. So I checked it out. It was a good question, and here's what he asks. Dear Mr. Holthy, it is amazing that you guys guide, I think is what he's trying to say here, every one of us on Facebook and YouTube. I am proud of your selfless attitude. Okay, I get a little embarrassed with those things, but that's very kind. And that's not why I chose Deepak's question either, okay? He says, my name is Deepak. I am in India currently. I have done a Bachelor of Arts in Hospitality Management, and later in 2011, I did a diploma in event management from Canada. Okay, so he actually obtained an educational credential that would be accepted directly because it was in Canada. He asks, do I have to get WES for the BA? If I don't want to claim points for that, just by showing 1 year diploma, the CRS calculator is giving him enough points. So in his case, 457, which is awesome. That is totally awesome. And that would get you an ITA for sure. He said, shall I go ahead and create a profile without wasting any time, or should I just wait for Wes? Kindly guide. Deepak, no way. You do not need to include any education that you don't want to claim points for. So if you have enough points with just your Canadian credential, don't waste your time nor money going through Wes. Okay? Don't waste your time. So you're good to go, my friend. Good luck. All right. Next question. I'm going to pull this next one up out of my list. Okay. Okay, this is from Adrian. And Adrian states the following. This is an eAPR question on work history. I've only worked for one company for 5 years. During that time, I held many positions in different departments. When applying for EE, Express Entry, I listed each position individually in the profile, which is what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to list each position. Now that I have an ITA, my eAPR is asking me to submit my proof of work experience for each position that I listed. And yes, that is exactly what it does. That's why if there are positions, even within your own company, or work that you've done for other employers that you do not wish to get points for, don't include them in your profile. You don't need to. Only the ones you want to get points for that are going to affect your eligibility assessment for one of the federal programs, or that are going to give you comprehensive ranking system points that you need in order to meet that pass mark. Okay? So, the problem is, and this is what Adrian says, the problem is that the company only gave me one certificate of employment or one reference letter. The document does follow the requirements of EE, which is awesome. That's really important. And it's very detailed with descriptions of each position. Is it okay that I upload the same file for each position, or should I revise my work experience to summarize all of my positions as a single continuous work experience so that I only have to upload the file once? Well, the answer is really easy. And Adrian says any help would be greatly appreciated. Well, Adrian, this answer is really easy. 100% upload the same letter in every box that's open and you will be fine. You do not want to crush everything down into one, because I would suspect if you've been working for the company for 5 years, it's possible that your positions could be changing within knock codes. If they're all within the same knock, then maybe you can get away with doing just one. But the reality is you already have your ITA. So you're not going to go back around and monkey with any of that. You're going to keep your work history exactly as you had it in your profile, because that's what triggered the ITA. You don't want to be in a situation where you unwittingly lose work experience because you've altered how it's structured. So, Adrian, just upload that same letter in all 5 different places, or however many there are, and you will be just fine. All right? Great question. All right, Deidre, it's time to get to you. Okay, so this question is from Deidre, and she says, hello again, Mark. Hello. When using the points calculator, it asks if you have a qualifying job offer with LMIA if applicable. Yes, it does. How do you know if your job category requires an LMIA? Also, if you were already working for the company, would a job letter count as a job offer in that sense? This is a great question and leads to a great opportunity for me to put on my teacher hat and teach you guys what a job offer really is. So, I think I've cleared everything off of my screen. I don't have any hanging things. This is there, the Canadian Immigration Institute. I think that's probably not going to be in the way. And then we have our EE Live Q&A. I'm going to kick that off. And so nothing's interfering with your screen. Okay, let's go and let's take a look at mine. I am going to blow this up big so everybody can see. And we are going to take a look at the job offer or offer of employment. This is what it exactly is. So you can see here what constitutes a job offer. Well, we've already looked at this in past EE Live Q&As, but in order to claim your experience, the job offer has to be by one employer. It must be continuous, paid, full-time work for at least 1 year after you get your PR visa. So it can't be seasonal, right here. Maybe I can blow this up even bigger for you guys. Okay, so it can't be seasonal, so not seasonal. It must be year-round and not on a contract basis. Okay, it also has to be a skilled occupation, so 0 or A or B on the National Occupational Classification System, and that's the 2011 NOC. All right, so that's the baseline. But now, Deidre, this is where we really get to the basis of what a job offer is. Okay? So it also must be one of these three things. It must be one of them. And you can see these big ors here or there. So not all of them, but one. So right off the bat, by an employer with a new positive LMIA that approves the offer and names you and your position. All right. So this one is probably one of the more common ones. The company goes out, shows they can't find a Canadian to fill your position, and obtains an approval from ESDC, Employment and Skills Development Canada. ESDC. I can never remember this. These guys change their name all the time. This is where it is. I'm just pulling it up for you guys. So, Employment and Social Development Canada. Okay? So this is the site that you go to for a company to get their LMIA. And I covered this in a recent EE Live Q&A. But this is where the company gets the LMIA, and they have to show there's no Canadian and that's available to fill the position before they can essentially be granted the LMIA. So it's to support your job offer and your permanent residence. This will get you those extra points as for a job offer. So if the company has an LMIA, you don't even have to be in Canada, right? This could be a permanent one that's just used to support your express entry application. You don't have to actually work in Canada. The next one, so here's where we have the or. You can see you are currently working in Canada in a skilled job. We just covered that. That was issued originally based on an LMIA. Okay? And there are some additional factors that you have to meet. So you're in Canada right now working on a skilled work permit that had an LMIA that was issued before. So the LMIA they're only usually valid for 6 months. So it's possible that your original LMIA could have already expired, but it doesn't matter. As long as your current work permit was issued based on an LMIA and you're working for an employer listed on the work permit, so you're working for the same employer, and you're authorized to work in Canada on the day you apply for your permanent residence, so that's your eAPR, and when you ultimately become an immigrant, when your visa is issued. So you have to be able to keep working on that work permit the whole time. So if you lose the job, you don't have that work permit, then it's possible that could negatively impact your actual eAPR. And your current employer, the same one on your work permit, is the one that offered you the job, okay, that met all of those requirements. So exactly at least 1 year after you become a PR. So there's the two that relate to LMIAs. And Deidre, it doesn't matter what the skilled occupation is. It doesn't matter. It could be an executive for a company all the way down to a food service supervisor at McDonald's. So as long as it's considered at least a skill level B right here, A or O, then this will work. And obviously there's certain specific criteria that the offer letter from the company has to include. But generally speaking, these are the requirements. But not every person needs to have an LMIA for their offer of employment from the Canadian company to work. There is another one if you have a work permit that's skilled, but it's exempt from needing an LMIA. An example would be an intercompany transfer. Those of our American friends or Mexican friends who are professionals could be in Canada on a NAFTA professional work permit. And there are other categories that can work as well. But you also have to be currently working for that employer. And in this case, you have to show that you've had 1 year of full-time work experience or an equal amount of part-time for that same employer. So if you're on a NAFTA professional work permit and you're in Canada and you want to go through express entry, you have to show that you've actually had 1 year of full-time work experience with that employer before you're eligible to claim this work experience and the future job offer from that company towards that extra points for express entry. But it's not done there. The valid job offer, like all the others, has to be for at least 1 year after they issue the PR visa. Okay? So there you go, Deidre. I hope that one was helpful for you. Okay. And as I put it on full screen, guys, I actually can't see any of the comments. So all I can see now is J.M. Trudeau. Come on, man. Use your real name. J.M. Trudeau's giving me a thumb. Deidre, you're good. You're welcome, Deidre. Nahid, Brian, and ACAP all giving me thumbs up. Great. Guess I'm doing something right. Okay. Deidre, I saved you for the end because you asked me another question. Your other question was, I'm curious to know if you are the director of a registered home-based company, would this qualify you for EE under the CEC program? All right, Deidre, I think we went through this in detail a few EE Live Q&As ago, probably a couple months back. But the reality is it all comes down to whether or not that work experience is considered skilled and not self-employment, that you are meeting the minimum hour requirement to constitute full-time work, 30 hours per week, 1,560 hours per year, and that it's a real position with duties and it's a full-time job. So that's what really drives the ship when it comes to any home-based company, right? So also you have to understand that you have to be an employee of that company. So if we go through the Canadian Experience class, and I'm going to flip here, I'm going to pull it up first for you guys, and then I'm going to switch to full screen so that you don't have to watch me searching here. Okay, now I'm going to blow it up for you guys and go full screen. Okay, here's the requirements for the Canadian Experience class. And Deirdre, she asked specifically if that would work for the Canadian Experience class. So let's go down and let's take a look here. So you can see what constitutes skilled work. 12 months in the last 3 years. So at least 1 year of skilled work experience in the last 3 years. Full-time or equal part-time. You have to have been in valid work authorization, so you can't be illegal here. Meet the language requirements, which we can skip. You can't live in Quebec. So if you're planning on living inside Quebec, you're drawn under the CEC through Express Entry, and you put in your Express Entry profile that you want to live in Quebec. Guess what's going to happen, folks? They're going to refuse your eAPR. That's a separate discussion. Here, Deidre, is the issue. Self-employment and work experience gained while you were a full-time student does not count under this program. So the reality is if you have a home-based company, you may be the director, but if you are basically self-employed, then it's not going to work. You ask here, is it possible to have another director write your job letter and use your T4 forms as proof of income? Well, of course, you can be an employee in your company, and if there's other owners, then that could very well work. But understand, there isn't a very, very specific definition of what constitutes self-employment. So it's up to the officers to determine whether or not they feel you are an employee of that company, that home-based company, or whether you are truly a self-employed individual. All right? Then the next question you ask is, if my husband works a year in NOC B, can we simply apply for CEC and not mention my work experience at all? Well, it all comes down to your comprehensive ranking system points, right, Deidre? Because if you're looking at the points, if your husband becomes the principal applicant, yeah, that's great. He can get points, and I'll scroll all the way up to the top. So he can get points for his age, level of education, official language, and Canadian work experience. If he works for 1 year in Canada, then yeah, you can be eligible for the CEC, just like I showed you. But if you choose not to include any of your Canadian work experience, you're just going to miss out on your points. So you could get up to 10 points for your Canadian work experience that you're missing out on. But it's your choice. All right. I think that from the standpoint of the paper-based questions, if I look at timing here, we've been going for about 39 minutes right now, and I do want to keep these a little bit shorter, but you guys have come on and joined me. So I'll take, for the next 10 minutes, questions right from the live listeners. So you can repost them right here, and I will answer them. So Cassandra says, can we send our questions? You can now, so go for it. All right, what is the minimum score that I need to get from IELTS? Okay, Yuli, I just covered that. The minimum score, you need to meet a CLB 7. So if I go back to my screen, I'll hit it one more time. And if we go to the language equivalency table here, in order for you to get a CLB 7, which is the minimum standard on IELTS, you need a 6 all the way across the board. Okay, so we covered that. Just a quick little recap. All right, next question. Vladimir says, my wife, I'm going to scroll back here now so this doesn't slip away from me. Okay, so Vladimir says, hello Mark, my wife changed the Designated Learning Institution, DLI. I was trying to figure out what he was asking. The DLI number, now she's studying in a public school. Can I apply for open work permit? Because I got refusal because school was not public. Thank you. Okay, the question, Vladimir, yeah, you can apply for an open work permit to come with your spouse who's studying in Canada. And if I go in here, and I've got, Google is my best friend, IMP, let's see if I can find the, let's see if I can guess the right one here. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to go to my full screen here and I'll show you. And everyone else who's watching this, if you're studying in Canada, spouses or common law partners of full-time students right here have the ability to get an open work permit if their spouse is on a valid study permit from a designated learning institution in Canada. And so you can see here the provisions outlined in C42 apply only to spouses and students engaged in full-time studies at a Canadian university, community college, blah, 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 publicly funded trade or technical school, or private institution authorized by provincial statute to confer degrees. And so it has to be a designated learning institution and meet these requirements. So if it does, you bet. Now that question wasn't express entry, but hey, why not? I guess I'm not a one-hit wonder. I can answer other questions about immigration. Okay, let's see what we got next here. Okay, Deidre, awesome beans. You guys are hilarious. All right. Okay, Envis. Okay, Hello Mark is a bank compliance specialist job included in professional occupations in finance. Okay, Envis, I think I sent you an email. When it comes to matching up NOCs, anything that is a skill level 0, A, or B is considered skilled for the purposes of the express entry system. And those of you who are wondering, well, what is this National Occupational Classification System? Let's jump in here quick. And you can just search NOC 2011 and Canada, if maybe you're outside Canada, and it will take you to the site. And some of you are wondering, okay, well, this is my occupation, and I'm going to make sure that I've got it on the right screen, which I think I do. I'm going to blow this up, okay, and hopefully, there we go, okay. So in here, you can go to the matrix, and it might be really small, but bear with me, folks. The internet is just a little bit slower today. Okay, so if we go to the matrix and we click on the matrix, I'm going to shrink this down because it's so big, and we may not be able to include everything here, but I'll sure give it a try. So here you can see across the top are all the various industries, 1 through 9. Across the side, you can see any occupation that you have here that fits within a 0, an A, which is professional occupations right here, or a skill level B, which is your trade and technical positions. All of these will work for express entry. But anything that goes down further that would be classified as a skill level C or even a skill level D doesn't count. And this is where you can go to find it out, the NOC 2011. All right. Okay. Okay, Cassandra says, all right, as long as these questions aren't too specific, folks, that's the key. They have to be of general importance. So, okay, so Cassandra says, I have a CRS of 434 with my husband added. He did not do IELTS because it's not done in our country, Bahamas. I did it. My CRS without him is 460 because of my Bachelor of Science from Canada. Should I create a profile without him? We missed the last one, 438. Can I add him later? Okay, the most important thing to remember, Cassandra, is that you always need to include him in your application. That's non-negotiable. But when you're completing your profile, you list him as non-accompanying. And if you do that, then yes, you can add him at a later stage. But you do not ever, ever, ever want to not include him and then submit your application as if you were never married or single. Okay? So you have the ability to do that. And as it stands right now, you even have the ability to add him on after you've filed your eAPR and your application has been accepted as being complete, but before your landing instructions are given, before you receive your confirmation of permanent residence. You can actually squeeze them in after that stage and still benefit from the same factors. Now, I would never ever encourage anyone to do that because I think that's a little bit unethical if you're just using it to deliberately trick the system. But in fairness, the law is the law, and there's nothing preventing you from doing that. And so, personally, as an immigration lawyer, I still remember my days as an immigration officer. And so I tend to operate that way. I tend to try to do everything I can to follow the law, not to try to be sneaky or tricky, try to fit people in where they don't qualify. I just practice that way. So there might be other lawyers or other consultants who would be all over this idea of dropping a spouse to get more points and then adding them on right before landing. But the only times I do that is when people's circumstances truly change. So maybe for some reason a spouse didn't want to come because they had a job that they didn't want to lose right now. And they were prepared to wait another year after to be sponsored. Well, then they lose their job or there's some change in circumstance that then results in them wanting to come sooner. Well, fine, I'll help them to do that. Or someone gets married and they get married after they file their eAPR and want to add their spouse on before they finish the landing process. Oh yeah, I'm all over that. It's just the deliberate attempt to kind of misrepresent. Well, I shouldn't say misrepresent, but it could be interpreted that way, saying that your spouse just doesn't want to come when in reality they do, and you're just playing the system. So there you go, Cassandra. Up to you. Okay, Maureen says, my 16-year-old son. Ah, yes, Maureen, you sent me that EE Live Q&A. I'm going to leave your question, and I'm going to cover medical inadmissibility in another EE Live Q&A. But this question, when it comes to becoming medically inadmissible to Canada, autism absolutely can cause you and all of your family members to be inadmissible to Canada. But it's in this type of a situation with a condition that would cause a drain on Canadian social services, there is an ability to show that you can cover the costs of whatever care without need for accessing Canadian social services. But it is no slam dunk. And at this stage, because Mario came on my Canadian Immigration podcast, I am going to plug Mario Bliss Emo. And he is one of the gurus when it comes to medical inadmissibility in Canada. So not too often. So all of you lawyers who are out there watching this who don't think I am trying to advance the causes of everybody else who comes on my podcast, you're wrong, because those who are kind enough to come on and share their knowledge with everyone, I'm going to plug them because they deserve it. So if I go and type in Mario Bellissimo lawyer, that should take me to where I need to go. And Mario is used to be the chapter chair for our national Canadian Bar Association. He is the man. So he writes the book on medical inadmissibility. So you can see here, I'll blow it up a little bit larger. So I would recommend that you reach out to Mario if you have that situation, and he can guide you through that process. But don't delay, do it. And then I'll also show you, I'll just do another Google search. Let's see, Canadian Immigration Podcast, Bellissimo. I'll take it to here. Let's see if I can find it. Actually, his sites are hitting first before mine. His social media is really good. So when I type that in, I get to his website where he posts his interview with me before I get to my own. But anyways, medical inadmissibility, top 5 considerations when responding to a fairness letter. So this is demystifying this complex area of immigration law with immigration lawyer Mario Bliss Emo. Essentially, we cover medical inadmissibility. And when you're going through the process of express entry, and there is a medical that's completed, in this case, I'll go back here. In this case, it's for Maureen. She would file her application. The immigration medical would be done for her son. The doctor would say, yes, there's autism spectrum disorder. And then it would trigger what we call a fairness letter. That letter would then say, show us, why your son would not cause an undue drain, essentially, or excessive demand on Canadian social services in this context. So there you go, Maureen. I was actually going to intend to do that on a different one, but it really is case by case, and it depends on the unique circumstances of your son. All right. Okay. Okay, Deidre is asking what is the minimum points, but you can't remember. Okay, if you want this, here's where you go. I'll go back to my page. Excuse me, I'll blow it up. And then all you have to do, it's really easy. Google's really easy. So EE and then rounds of invitations, it pops up. This is where you go, right here. And I'm going to click on the site right here. And it's nice and big. And right here, it shows the previous rounds of invitations right here. So the last one, at least on October the 4th, was 438 points, which was already identified to us. And then if you want to see the previous rounds, you just click on this link and you can see them all. So 72 was 433. Draw 71 was 435. And we have 434, so right around the 430s, okay? So 433 is the lowest that it's been since the government changed and added points for siblings and for French language ability. But before that, the point threshold, if we keep going down to May here, in May did drop down to 413. And it's entirely possible, folks, that it could get back to that level. All right, we are just about at the end of the line for me here. Okay, let's get to a couple more. Okay, so Yuli says, is first cousin included as a family member to gain points in express entry? Nope, only siblings. Family members, an expanded definition of family member is included within the eligibility assessment for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. But for CRS with express entry, only siblings of you or your spouse who live in Canada and are themselves a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident would give you those extra points for siblings. Okay. Ahmed, I answered your question, man. Okay, Ahmed says, could you please answer my post about CIC considering the overall ban? My goodness, man. I can't actually answer that. Ultimately, when it comes to making that request, the immigration representative email address that I send questions to is just about clarification on immigration policy, not about the creation or changing of the policy after it has been put into place. So Ahmed, sending an email by me, I wouldn't get a response to it. Not about that. That's not the right forum. The only way policy changes is at government level, and the way the immigration regulations, the ministerial instructions are written, it's not averaged, unfortunately. And they've got their reasons for doing it. I don't know exactly why, but unfortunately it'd be great to average the scores. But unless you have a learning disability or some other issue with, an actual learning disability that's documented, you can't vary the way the language assessment is done and the points that are given. I did have a good friend, and sometimes he pops on here. Ralph sometimes pops on, and he was able to successfully go through with, I think it was just speaking, I believe. But that was because of us being able to demonstrate medically that he had a learning disability. So it was a super great result. All right. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Pamela says, can I apply for a student visa and also have an EE profile? Well, you can, but the key with study permits is to show that you have temporary intent, that you don't intend to live permanently in Canada. And if immigration recognizes that you have an express entry application in the queue, well, it does make it a little bit more challenging to show that you have temporary intent. Now, Canada does accept the concept of dual intent, the intention to one day become a permanent resident, but at the same time, the intention to fully abide by the temporary conditions on your study permit. That's accepted. But in practice, an express entry application in the queue for some countries could result in an officer outright refusing the study permit. Although they can't do it just on that basis alone, there have to be other factors, but they're creative and they can usually find something else to hang their hat on. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to end there. I know that people have a lot of questions, and you can post them here in the comments. Other people have an ability to jump on and also offer their experience, but I wanted to express a sincere thank you to everybody who has actually purchased the guide, and I'm also in the process of setting up an affiliate program. So if any of you are interested in becoming an affiliate of the Canadian Immigration Institute, I will then give you a special code. And anyone who uses your code when they purchase the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself, you will then get a little bit of a kickback. And the reality is, if you wanted to work collectively with a friend or something like that, and you become an affiliate and you decide, hey, wait a minute, why am I telling you guys this? Well, hey, if you wanted to cheat the system, I'll tell you how to cheat the system. You request to be an affiliate, and then you just, when I give you the kickback, you just give you the discount to your friend. But it only works for the full payment. So you guys can do whatever you want. It only works for the lifetime access. All right. Other than that, please do subscribe, because all of the things that I'm teaching you in here, I've actually built into the guide. All the Q&As, I'm constantly building it up. All the tips, strategies, all those things are all included in the guide. And those of you who want to hire me directly, I'm in the process of structuring a very cool system that allows me to provide only as much assistance as you need, so that you're not paying me lawyer fees to fill out a form. In other words, you're able to complete your own application and then hire me to assist you in doing the final review and making sure that everything is right and that it's correct. And then you manage the process yourself after that. So it's a little peace of mind that I sell to clients who are looking to handle the bulk of the application themselves. So you can reach out to me if you want. As I indicated before, if you have a question you would like to send to me, you can do so, and I'll just type this in again here. Okay, mholthy@stringham.ca. And don't forget as well, I'll also put in here, I pulled them both off so I lost them. Okay, EE Live Q&A. Make sure you put that in the subject line, and I'll be happy to answer your questions live right here. Once again, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you join our Facebook group if you'd like to watch live. Otherwise, hey, I'm grateful to have you tuning in. I hope this information was helpful. It's been an absolute delight to be here with all of you guys and get back in the grind of things. We're closing in on 1 hour, and I hope this was helpful. Take care, everyone. I will talk to you again soon as you battle your way through this crazy world that we call Express Entry.